The winter of 1944 did not arrive politely. It came down hard, fast and without mercy, settling into bombed-out cities and frozen front lines like an occupying army of its own. There were no weather alerts, no central heating to fall back on, no supply chains waiting to rescue people when coal stopped moving and fuel became a military asset instead of a civilian need. Across Europe, families huddled in shattered apartments, basements and shelters where walls no longer kept the cold outside. Soldiers slept in foxholes carved into frozen ground, their greatest enemy not always the man across the line, but the cold creeping into their bones. And in that silence, people learned a brutal truth. Survival was no longer about courage or ideology. It was about understanding heat, scarcity, and how to stay alive with almost nothing. Today, on The Hard Past, we're breaking down one of the most overlooked survival tools of wartime winters: the survival heat candle. A small, improvised device that quietly kept thousands of people from freezing when modern systems had collapsed. Before we dive in, take a second to support this channel if you value serious history and practical lessons drawn from the past. Like this video so it reaches others who care about how people actually survived, not just who won battles. Share it with someone who understands that history lives in human experience. Comment below with the next forgotten survival skill you want us to uncover, and subscribe to The Hard Past so you don't miss future deep dives. Now let's get straight into the knowledge that kept people alive when comfort disappeared. By late 1944, winter itself had become a weapon. Allied and Axis bombing campaigns deliberately targeted infrastructure that kept civilians alive. Power stations went dark, rail yards burned, coal depots vanished in smoke. In many cities, fuel simply stopped arriving. Wood was stripped from parks, stairwells, and abandoned buildings. In occupied territories and frontline regions, homes were already damaged, with broken windows and exposed walls turning rooms into iceboxes. Cold injuries surged. Hypothermia killed quietly. Frostbite crippled soldiers before they ever reached combat. In that environment, warmth was not a luxury. It was a daily fight for survival. The survival heat candle did not come from laboratories or official factories. It actually emerged wherever people were desperate enough to experiment. Civilians, soldiers and resistance members all arrived at similar solutions without any coordination, really. The problem was simple. A normal candle gives light, but most of its heat rises and just vanishes. What people needed was usable heat that stayed close to the body. The answer, as it turned out, was to trap and redirect that heat using materials already at hand. A tin can, paint tin, or metal container became the heart of the device, not just holding the flame, but acting as a radiator that absorbed heat and pushed it outward into the surrounding space. Inside the container, the internal structure mattered as much as the flame itself. People packed rolled, corrugated cardboard or tightly bundled cloth into the can, creating multiple channels for the fuel to burn slowly rather than all at once. Melted wax, usually scavenged from candle stubs or household supplies, was poured over the core until it was fully saturated. Where wax was unavailable, Animal fat, tallow, or kitchen grease took its place. Wartime notes and civil defense manuals, repeatedly describe a rough ratio of about 3 parts fuel to 1 part cardboard or cloth. Once lit, the candle burned for hours, producing steady, low heat instead of a short-lived flare. These devices were never meant to heat entire rooms to comfort. That was impossible under wartime conditions. Their purpose was survival. Diaries from Germany, Poland, France, and the Eastern Front describe families gathering close to these candles to keep hands functional, to prevent water from freezing solid overnight, and to dry socks just enough to avoid trench foot. A small rise in temperature could mean the difference between sleeping and shaking uncontrollably until dawn. In field shelters and foxholes, a single heat candle often kept fingers and toes alive long enough to survive the night. People quickly learned how to multiply that heat using simple observation. When 2 or 3 candles were placed together and covered with an inverted clay pot, metal bucket or cooking vessel, warmth increased dramatically. The cover absorbed heat and radiated it outward slowly, turning open flames into a crude heat exchanger. This method appeared independently across Europe, not because it was taught, but because it worked. Under pressure, effective ideas spread fast. Safety was treated as a rule, not a suggestion. Historical accounts are clear that ventilation was essential. Heat candles consume oxygen and can produce carbon monoxide. Survivors used them only where air could circulate, through cracked doors, broken windows, or open chimneys. Fire and air were respected as much as food and water. The cold could kill, but ignorance killed faster. The survival heat candle reveals something deeper about the wartime mindset. People refused to surrender to conditions. They experimented, adapted, and shared what worked. Some added salt to wax to reduce smoke, others mixed pine pitch to extend burn time. Designs varied, but the principle stayed the same: adapt, conserve, survive. That mindset is just as relevant today as it was in 1944. Studying the survival heat candle is not nostalgia, it's education. It teaches thermal mass, radiant heat, fuel efficiency, and risk management using the bare minimum. It honors people who endured winter without modern systems and refused to freeze quietly. If this deep dive into the hard realities of the past matters to you, support the hard past by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Comment with the next forgotten survival lesson you want explored, and help keep this knowledge alive, because history doesn't whisper, it teaches.